It's an African fat-tailed gecko. She's a female. She's almost full grown. I would consider her a young adult. Definitely not an adolescent though. She's got a nice sized tail going right now. I picked her up from a pet shop not too long ago, a couple months, and she was in really bad shape. She had sores and just pussy-filled things on her mouth, basically mouth rot is what a lot of people like to call that. She also had what is known as a pencil tail, very skinny tail. She was extremely malnourished, very skinny, very underweight, again very lethargic. Those are some things to keep an eye out for. Check their eyes. If they got clear eyes, that's a good sign. If you move your finger past their eye, do they do anything? Do they move their head at all? Any kind of movement when you put a finger or something, any movement, you can see she's moving her head around when I'm doing that. That's good. The tail obviously is the number one thing. You want that big. Don't think too much on the skin color. That can show, that can be a sign of some problems, but for the most part, keep in mind that they are constantly shedding. So they do have some variable skin colors, and also a lot of geckos change color if it's hot or colder. So if they've been in the heat for a long time, it's likely that they're going to be a little bit lighter colored. If they're in the cold, they're going to be a little bit darker and more solid colored. Just be aware of that. Don't think too much on the skin color. If they get really, really pale, then maybe, yeah, you start to get worried if they're not eating or something. But if it's just the skin color and that's the only thing you're worried about, it's probably not a big deal. Increase the humidity maybe a little bit. Just wait it out. Give it like 2 or 3 days and your gecko will probably be okay. I was just going to talk about the diet. I know that's something a lot of people ask about. Her right here, as you can see, that tail that I showed you earlier, and after what I told you about her past or whatever, when she was unhealthy, she did not want to eat anything. She occasionally would eat crickets, but she would go on like 9-day, I guess, fasting. She just wouldn't eat for like 9 days, and then randomly she'd start eating again for 7 days or so. But she was really bad. She had a lot of difficulty. She had those mouth problems, so she was uncomfortable eating. I took her to a vet, got her checked out, and she was okay, other than what he could see, and he told me how to treat it. Don't do this with your gecko. This is very specific to my case and this specific gecko. I basically took a Q-tip, a little hydrogen peroxide, a little Neosporin, dabbed a small amount on the sore, the open incision or whatever, and wipe that off after like 3-5 seconds. Make sure they don't ingest any of that. And it went away after a week or two. She's doing a lot better now, as you can see. Once again, got that nice big tail. It's natural for a lot of these geckos to have that kind of blue coloring on their tail. That's totally normal. Don't be discouraged when you see one in a pet shop or at a breeder or whatever. But I might have said this earlier, I've only fed her crickets, and she's only ever eaten crickets with me. I haven't fed her anything else, and so I do know it's possible to get that tail nice and fat and get a good healthy gecko just by giving them crickets. They really do enjoy them a lot more. Crickets are a lot more active, they're more nutritious, they got more vitamins. Crickets are definitely the best way to go. They're cheap and you can get a lot of them. If you do get crickets, which I highly recommend, obviously, you do need to gut load them. You need to gut load any insect that you're feeding to your gecko. This is good stuff for crickets if you're gut loading crickets. Flukers has a lot of different types of stuff. They're a good brand. This is a high calcium diet. This is $3, real cheap. Go out and get it right now. It's $3. Like, I mean, it's the cheapest thing I've bought as far as when I'm dealing with these guys. That's very important. Make sure you, whenever you buy insects, that you gut load them first. Put them, whatever you keep them in the container, dump some of the cricket feed in or whatever you're using, whatever insects that you have. Make sure you gut load them. Give them at least a couple hours to get enough of that food into them. Make sure all those crickets in there get a good chance at getting to the food, and then then you could probably feed them to your gecko later that night or something. Just make sure they have a good 5 or 6 hours, I'd say, to eat, and that goes for any insect. Other things that you can feed your gecko would include mealworms, waxworms, superworms, and I've even heard people feeding locusts. So you can give them locusts if you're daring enough to deal with those insects. Again, though, you got to gut load whatever it is you're feeding. I can't stress that enough. I'm gonna keep saying it throughout this video. Gut load, gut load, gut load. Second thing about feeding, calcium powder. This is a little sample, Repticalcium, little sample size. They come in bigger sizes, get a bigger size. This you would give them twice a week. What I recommend is taking a cricket, putting its head in, and then feeding it to your gecko. So twice a week on this, and I would basically give 2 dusted crickets per time that you give them the calcium. So that would be 4 a week. So I would probably give her 2 dusted crickets on Tuesday and 2 dusted crickets on Sunday or something like that. Just space it out a little bit, because you do have to also give them vitamins, which are right here. Reptivite is a good brand. Obviously there's some different brands and types. Make sure you get appropriate ones. There may be some, if you have a baby, that you need specific ones. Make sure you research that. Ask people at the pet shop. Ask your breeder. They should be able to help you out with anything specific to your gecko. The other thing I wanted to mention was the vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important with these animals. If you don't know already, vitamin D comes from the sun. Human beings can take vitamin D from the sun. It basically is what makes us happy. It's kind of like the happy vitamin. It does other things too, obviously. It's very important for them because they are nocturnal, so they do not get that direct sunlight. It basically gives them a balance of just everything's a balance. You need vitamins for their skin, for their claws, for their eyes, their tongue, and their mouth, and obviously their bone growth is very important. So make sure you're doing a really good job of that. But the D3, make sure that at least one, either your calcium powder or your reptile vitamins, has D3 in it. Do not get both with vitamin D. That'll be too much for your gecko, in my opinion. I would get one. I recommend getting it with the calcium like this one. It's probably the best way to go. Again, they can't get vitamin D from anything other than what you give them. That's why you got to gut load. Because in the wild, they eat insects that have eaten plants and eaten all these other things, and they have naturally gut loaded themselves before being eaten by a gecko. So that's why it works in nature. You have to replicate that process of the insect eating and then the gecko eating. So do a good job on that. Diet is probably the best way to improve your gecko's health, and it's probably the best way to ruin your gecko's health. So make sure you're gut loading, and I know that crickets are definitely a good thing to give your gecko consistently, and that's if you just want to give your gecko crickets, your gecko will be completely healthy. It'll add weight, everything will be okay, but at the same time, variety is very important. It does help. So an occasional superworm, waxworm, mealworm every once in a while is good. Be careful with waxworms. I consider them a treat for a gecko. If you give them too many, they'll start to become addicted, and they won't eat anything else. They'll become really snobby and stuck up. So make sure you're giving them a variety, but definitely mainly feeding them crickets. Again, it gives them a little exercise. It really triggers that hunger response, and they really like going after them. And again, it's fun to watch. That's why you bought a gecko, is to see it eat, right? Doesn't do a lot of other things, so I'm hoping that's why you got a gecko, unless you just really like these guys. That's cool too. But crickets are good. Anything's good. Just make sure you're gut loading anything that you are feeding them. Each gecko will have different feeding patterns. They won't eat the same amount of insects per day. most likely. She will eat about an average of 4 or 5 crickets during a feeding, and again, I feed her every day. The most I've seen her eat at one point in time is 7, and the fewest I've seen her eat during a feeding is 3. Obviously, it goes without saying that she has skipped meals before. You know, she'll randomly not eat if I put a cricket in front of her, but as time goes on, she's gotten a lot better at eating every day, and I like her eating every day because she was very underweight and she's been struggling with health issues. So also, one more thing about waxworms that they are good for is obviously adding weight, getting some fat, and if you have a female that you're planning on breeding, it's a good tool to use, as long as you're doing it responsibly and within the right amount. You're not giving them too much, but that's a good way to put some weight on a female who's about to pass on eggs or whatever, because they do lose a lot of weight after they do reproduce. So it's good to have some body weight on them before they do that. I'm going to be talking about signs of a healthy gecko in my next video. I got some other ones, check them out. I got some ones on lighting. If you have any questions on baby and adult, check out that video. The substrate is also another video, and then obviously this one's on diet. Check them out. If you guys got any comments, any questions, please ask. I will do my best to get back to you. I'm open for a discussion, you know. I'm open to hear you guys' opinions, hear what you guys have to say. These are really cool animals. If you haven't gotten one already, do some research. Take your time with it. Don't rush into buying your gecko. Make sure you're prepared. Have the terrarium set up. Have the lighting all set up. And just be as prepared as possible before you do make that purchase. Again, you know, when you're buying these guys, make sure you're going through a reliable source. I know a lot of times people talk down on pet shops, but there are some upsides of going to a pet shop. First thing is, a lot of times they'll give you a warranty. They'll give you like a 30-day warranty, so that's nice. They tend to be a lot cheaper than a breeder, and they also have, you know, they have specific species available at all times. You know what they're gonna have, and when they're gonna have them. Most of the time, you can ask and say, hey, when you get your next shipment of African fat-tailed geckos, and they'll say, oh, next Tuesday or whatever. So that's what's good about pet shops. Again, though. What's most likely to happen is you're going to get a gecko that's very sick and very malnourished. If you do go through a pet shop, take that thing to a vet right away, just to get checked out. You can get a stool check, which is basically just going to check their crap for parasites. That costs about $20. It's really not that expensive. If you want a full checkup of your gecko, you can pay about $50 or $60. Kind of depends on where you go, and they'll give her a good once over, check out her eyes, check out her mouth, check out her the back of her legs, you know, checking for dry spots on the skin or whatever. They'll weigh her. It's really good to take a gecko to a vet if it's a new one, especially. But yeah, guys, feel free to check out the videos, post. It's my little gecko right here.